What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariel if you didn't know. So today's video is going to be all about your lash training. If you guys have seen my last few videos, I do talk a little heavily about training, virtual training, consultations, all that good stuff. But this video is basically for all those lash artists out there looking to get trained or have been trained and it sucked. I'm about to tell you the truth about your lash training. Okay, so I do want to say that being a lash trainer myself, it is a bit difficult coming up with the right amount of, I guess, info, curriculum to make sure that your students get the most out of their training. But one thing that I've come to realize, and I think this is where the disconnect is between lash artists and trainers or potential lash artists, students, whatever you want to say, I think that the disconnect comes from realizing that when you go in for a lash training, it is meant to teach you the basics. It's meant to teach you how to be a lash artist in the sense of how to do lashes. A lot of the questions that people have, a lot of the issues that come around, or a lot of things that are like, oh, I didn't learn this or I didn't learn that, generally come from when you're actually doing lashes and you experience certain things and you're like, I was never taught how to deal with this, or I wasn't taught how to do this specific set, or even like basically like how to retain certain things, or like troubleshooting. Sometimes it's not something that can be totally covered in your lash training. That being said, I will say, like, I personally have had a really bad lash training experience myself, so I do my best to make sure that my students are thoroughly trained, which is why I don't leave them hanging. I make sure that like a mentorship is included in my training, and that way when you do come across these issues, when you do come across clients when you're like, I don't know what to do here, you can call and you can be like, this is my situation, this is my problem here, this is what I'm experiencing, like what do I do? And I think that's where the problem lies between lash trainers and students, is because they don't have that, I guess, like that mentorship or that relationship after they leave your studio or leave your training. They're kind of left on their own and they don't know what to do. So if you are a lash trainer out there looking to create your program or have a program and you feel like you maybe aren't giving your students enough, I think that's something that you really need to consider, because that's where your students are going to get the most out of the lashing experience or the training experience. Like, I think that that's where you'll find that your students really need the help. Yes, they can learn the concept. At the end of the day, the concept of lash extensions is very, very simple. The technique is where you want to improve, and the technique is where you find yourself having a lot more questions, and that comes from actually doing it with being in the industry, having clients come to you. It's when you experience different clients, different ethnicities, different types of hair, like that's where the questions come from, and that's where you need to make sure that you're there for your students. If you're leaving your students out hanging, like, this is where the problem is. This is where the disconnect is. This is why 90% of students I talk to have told me they have terrible experiences with lash training. And it comes from just not being able to teach fully in your, there's only, like, most trainings are like 2 days, right? And even my training, my classic training, is a 2-day experience, because 2 days is what it takes to teach you the basics of lash extensions and can teach you how to actually do lash extensions properly. I can teach you the humidity, I can teach you product knowledge, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, everybody has their own issues and their own strengths, and you're not going to realize where your strength and your weakness lies until you actually start applying lash extension. I just wanted to make this like as a quick video because I know that there's a lot of questions, a lot of complaints, and I get that. But I just think that these are some things you have to take in, like, don't get me wrong, like, I know that there's a lot of things out there where lash trainers just don't teach you, such as like humidity. Those are all things you should know. Product knowledge, I think, is super important. It helps a lot when you're in the industry. Once you start getting experience, I think product knowledge can go a really long way, and especially knowing it from the beginning. So I definitely emphasize on product knowledge, but I know that a lot of lash artists or lash trainers don't necessarily teach that. But what my point is here is that as a potential lash artist or as a student, I think that when you're looking for a trainer, you do need to make sure that they're able to give you some sort of long-term help or assistance or mentorship or guidance in some way, because as a lash artist, you do experience more questions, more issues when you start applying, whether it's a mannequin head, whether it's a model, whether it's when you start taking clients. Sometimes you start questioning, like you go through pricing, you go through marketing and stuff like that with your course. Sometimes it doesn't really click in until you actually start doing it and you're like, hey, what do I charge? Like, how do I do this? And I think that comes with definitely needing to have like a long-term mentorship. So definitely look for something like that when you are looking for a lash trainer or a lash program. When you're looking to get certified, I think it's super important. I think that's gonna benefit you and avoid you having that negative experience and avoid you having that like, oh, my lash training sucked. And it just, that's the worst. It's literally the worst. And it's unbelievable how common it is, because a lot of the times now I think that lash training itself is, I'm not gonna lie, a money grab. People do it for the money, and they know that they can get a large chunk of it for very little amount of time they have to put into it. But I think the only way for students to benefit from lash training without having that lost feeling is to really have that long-term assistance and have someone help them along the way. If you can't ask questions while you're going through certain experiences, you're gonna feel lost, you're gonna feel discouraged. And I think that's where a lot of people feel like they just wanna give up because they're discouraged. They don't have anyone to ask. They don't have that outlet where they can really kind of go through the ins and outs of what's happening in that exact moment. And then they kind of let it linger. And then once you let things linger and you let the time pass by, that's usually where you find that lash artists or students tend to just give up. And that's exactly what you don't want as a lash trainer. You want to make sure that your students actually do follow through and they're excited about it and they're happy to do it and they want to learn more. But if they're just doing it on their own and they can't find that assistance that they need, it's very easy to just want to throw in the towel. Okay guys, so that is it for this video. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that this kind of clarifies some questions that I know a lot of people have about lash training, and I know when you read those comments and stuff, it's really kind of sucky to hear all that. So I think that this kind of clarifies like where that disconnect is and how you can move forward without having that problem. So for lash trainers as well as students, this is like a really good tip for everyone to kind of follow through so everyone kind of ends off happy with their experience. So if you guys like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back with something new next time. Bye.